Did you hear that? Fiora gasped, stepping back, fear threading her voice. Yes, we need to. Quinlan started, but the distant scream of their friends cut through the air like a siren's call, sending terror racing through his veins. Quinlan, Fiora urged, panic swelling in her chest. As they rushed toward their friends, the darkness of the cabin seemed to close in, whispering stolen secrets and unresolved nightmares, a sinister prelude to the horror that awaited them outside. Scene 84, Adventures Await. The sun dipped low beyond the edge of the gnarled trees, painting the sky with hues of crimson and lavender, a lingering warmth clinging to the evening air. The worn wooden deck of the old cabin creaked underfoot as Quinlan Vex leaned against the weathered railing, watching the horizon bleed into night. The scent of pine mingled with the faintest hint of impending rain, a reminder of the storms that had once swept through their shared adventures. Today, however, felt different, alive with anticipation, crackling like static in the air. "Okay, Quinn, what's on the agenda?" called Fiora Lease from inside, her voice vibrant enough to slice through his brooding. She emerged from the cabin, fresh and exuberant, her hair dancing like a wild flame in the golden light. He turned, propping himself up with both hands, and grinned at her. "How about an exploration of the old quarry? You know, where legends say they buried the last of the lost settlers?" Her eyes sparkled, the adventure coursing through her veins brighter than the setting sun. "You mean the ones who went missing and were never seen again?" Quinlan shrugged, humor flickering in the corner of his mouth. "What's life without a little risk? Besides, would we even be us if we didn't chase shadows?" Fiora laughed, an infectious sound that carried through the trees like the last notes of a beloved song. Just behind her, Ivy and Leo ambled out, their hands full of snacks and laughter. Ivy, with her light-catching curls, peeked over Leo's shoulder, conspiratorially whispering about ghost stories, as if sharing a secret. "And what if the shadows chase us back?" Ivy teased, tossing a handful of popcorn at Leo, who pretended to stumble back dramatically. "Then our fiasco would make a great episode of Caught on Camera," Leo quipped, rolling his eyes. "But I'm still not ready to be the fool who gets chased by ghosts. Last time, I ended up in the lake." "You had it coming for that terrible joke." Ivy playfully poked his side, and the two fell into light-hearted banter, laughter warming the cool air. Quinlan caught Fiora's gaze as laughter bubbled around them, their teasing shared in a moment only they could grasp. He felt a flurry of emotions whirl within him, a longing mixed with hesitation. The air grew thick, the fading sunlight bathing her in a russet glow. A chance here felt alive, yet fragile as the gossamer threads of dusk. "Or," Fiora started, stepping closer, her voice shifting to something softer, more daring, "we could stay and tell scary stories. You know I found that old journal with the tales our parents crafted." "Scared of real ghosts, Fiora?" he teased, the tension of unsaid words flickering between them. "Please, I've faced more terrifying things than that." She leaned in, her eyes narrowing playfully. "That time you made me watch Nightmare on Elm Street was far worse." As the sun slipped away, it left the first stars peeking through the twilight sky. Quinlan's breath caught when Fiora stepped closer, the space between them a charged whisper. The laughter of their friends faded, leaving an intimate cocoon around them. He could feel her warmth radiating, her energy a tether to the past they shared, an uncharted future drawing nearer. "I'd face anything for a moment with you," Quinlan murmured, the words tumbling from his lips before he could catch them. Her gaze brightened, searching his with a vulnerability he knew was mirrored in his own heart. In that moment, all the teasing and laughter gave way to something deeper, something electric. Quinlan leaned in, his gaze flickering from her eyes to her lips, momentarily suspended in the warm, inviting dusk. Just as the space closed, laughter erupted from their friends, the sound wrapping around them like the evening mist. The moment fractured, but the warmth lingered, chasing away the chill of uncertainty. Fiora cleared her throat, breaking the tension, a teasing smile returning. "Fine, lead the way to your haunted playground, brave Quinn. Just don't say I didn't warn you when the shadows come chasing." Quinlan chuckled, his heart racing as they drew into the laughter again, the thrill of uncharted adventures brewing in the backdrop of fading twilight. "And if they do, I'll use you as my shield." As laughter intertwined with the encroaching night, Quinlan couldn't help but think that perhaps they were all a little haunted, but ready to face whatever awaited them together. In the pull of shared stories and whispers of fear, adventure simmered, and the promise of something deeper hung in the air like storm clouds waiting to break. Scene 85. Forging New Paths. In the dim light of the candlelit cabin, flickering shadows danced across the wooden walls, twisting the familiar into an eerie tapestry. Quinlan Vex leaned against the counter, rolling dough with focused determination. Flour speckled his forearms like powdered snow, and his brow furrowed in concentration. Though the task at hand was simple, that didn't erase the undertone of intensity swirling in the room. He turned the rolling pin, focusing on the rhythm, as if every press carried weight beyond the mundane act of preparing the group's dinner. Are you planning to roll out a vision for the future, or is this dough just for tonight? Fiora Liss chirped from the kitchen table, her playful laughter echoing against the cabin's aged surfaces. Her vibrant auburn hair fell in soft waves, catching the candlelight as she stared at him, curiosity etched in her features. Very funny, Quinlan replied, maintaining a straight face for a moment before his lips curled upward. This dough may very well decide our fate, pizza or culinary disaster. He punctuated his joke with a dramatic flourish, sending flour into the air like confetti. Oh, the horror! Fiora gasped. Leaning back in exaggerated shock, she leaned over the table, propelling herself forward with a mock seriousness that only made her more endearing. What if fate decides on pineapple? We can't have that! Quinlan chuckled, shaking his head as he pressed his finger into the dough, leaving an imprint. Pineapple is a valid option. Just think of the adventure. In that moment, the light-hearted banter veiled deeper emotions yearning for expression. Quinlan caught a glimpse of Fiora watching him, her eyebrow raised, curiosity tapering into the vulnerability he recognized so well. Adventure can be overrated, Fiora mused, her tone shifting slightly, revealing the weight beneath her playful guise. Sometimes staying in one place feels more comforting. Comforting? Quinlan asked, putting down the rolling pin. He stepped closer, wiping flour from his hands onto a kitchen towel. But isn't the unpredictability what makes it all exciting? A silence enveloped them like the mist rising outside, thick with unspoken thoughts. Fiora glanced away, her gaze landing outside the window, where leaves rustled eerily in the twilight. Exciting doesn't always mean happy. Sometimes it's just chaos, she whispered. Quinlan hesitated, his heart thumping louder than any ghost story they might share. What if we could forge a new path, blend the adventure with a little comfort? He stepped closer, their eyes locking in understanding, sparks igniting a shared intensity. Like combining pizza with something unexpected? Fiora suggested softly, a shy smile touching her lips as hope flickered in the corners of her expression. Exactly, Quinlan murmured, the space between them narrowing as he reached out, brushing his fingers against hers. It felt electric, a powerful reminder of the connection swirling like an uncharted journey. Moments flowed as their breaths harmonized, the tension thickening with every heartbeat. Fiora's cheeks flushed softly, reflecting the golden glow of the candles as Quinlan leaned in, his heart pounding not just from fear of the unknown ahead, but from the overwhelming tenderness of the moment. Quinlan, she whispered, her voice the smallest wisp of sound, yet it enveloped him with existence. Yes, he responded, feeling the world outside inch away, time at a standstill. I think I want this, Fiora confessed, searching his gaze, her sincerity radiating warmth. I want to take the leap. As she spoke, there was a softness in her eyes that invited Quinlan closer, pulling him toward her like gravity. Then we leap together, he replied, the words rolling off his tongue with a certainty that filled the space between them. They shared a breath, and in that shared moment, the world outside via the lurking entity felt distant. Quinlan leaned in slowly, needing to feel that exquisite bridge between uncertainty and passion. Their lips met, tentatively at first, a mere brush that ignited the proven chemistry they had forged in their shared respect and admiration. The kiss deepened, soft yet urgent. Neither sought to rush the moment. Their surroundings faded away, and the cabin melted into an intimate haven silenced by their budding connection, a sanctuary against the looming threats outside. As they broke apart, breathless, the shadows seemed to twinkle as if celebrating their awakening. Fiora broke the silence, breathless yet filled with wonder. What if this leap also leads us into the dark? Quinlan brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture both tender and protective. Then we face it together. The unspoken truth loomed heavy and comforting. They wouldn't face it alone. Whatever awaited them out in the unseen, forging paths was always better side by side. Scene 86, a moment of serenity. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden rays that pierced through the tangled branches of the old oak trees. A gentle breeze whispered secrets to the tall grasses, which danced gracefully as if celebrating the fleeting moments of peace. Quinlan Vex leaned against the trunk of the ancient tree, its bark rugged and cool against his back. He closed his eyes, letting the cacophony of nature drown out the haunting echoes of their recent horrors. Nearby, Fiora picked a wildflower, its vibrant blue petals standing in stark contrast against the earthy greens of summer. "Look at this one, Quinn. It's beautiful," she called, twirling around, her dress fluttering like the wings of a butterfly. Her laughter rang like a melody, almost carefree, as if they had stumbled into a forgotten fairy tale instead of the rich tension of survival. Quinlan opened his eyes to take in the sight of Fiora, her energy grounding him, pulling him from the clutches of shadows that had lingered just beyond the edges of their sanctuary. "You almost make me forget everything," he said, offering her a small smile, tinged with the weight of what was unsaid. "You shouldn't forget," Fiora replied, her voice softening. "It's a part of us now." She knelt down to examine more flowers, running her fingers through the grass. With every revelation they'd faced, her own fears crept closer. But there was something in this moment that sparked a flicker of hope. As they settled into an unspoken understanding, the sky hazed over, flipping from vibrant to somber as thick clouds gathered overhead. A distant rumble echoed through the valley, resonating in Quinlan's chest, a reminder of the storm looming, not just in the sky, but within. "Let's just enjoy this for a moment," Fiora urged, sensing the shift in his mood. She leaned back on her hands, her natural ease inviting him to do the same. Together, they sunk into the embrace of the earth, momentarily liberated from the weight of their past. A few feet away, Mateo Romero and Lena Chen shared quieter moments, casting occasional glances in their direction. Mateo polished a small silver token, a charm he claimed would ward away evil spirits. "You should really try this," he said, smiling at Lena, who sat fixing her hair. "Who knows, it might just work." "Oh, sure. A piece of metal can save us from death," Lena shot back, though her eyes glimmered with amusement. "You have more faith in that than I do in your ghost tales. You're lucky they're entertaining." "It's not just tales, there's history in every legend," Mateo replied, his passion igniting laughter among them. "Remember the one about the woman in the white dress? What did they say about her? She lost her beloved in the woods." "A classic," Lena interjected playfully, shaking her head. "You'd think people wouldn't wander into haunted woods after hearing those stories. Honestly." As Fiora laughed at Mateo's antics, Quinlan's gaze drifted, caught by this tender camaraderie. It was the first time in days that they all felt a semblance of normalcy, and still, shadows loomed. Suddenly, Fiora shifted closer, brushing her shoulder against Quinlan's. The innocent touch ignited a spark between them, electric and undeniable. "Do you think we'll ever be free from it?" she asked, keeping her voice low, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace. Quinlan turned his head to meet her gaze, the sincerity in her eyes grounding him. "I don't know, but right now, it's just us." He reached out, intertwining his fingers with hers, a connection forged between terror and comfort. Fiora's breath hitched, her heart racing with the electricity of the moment. Then slowly, as if exploring uncharted territory, Quinlan leaned in, close enough to feel her warmth enveloping him. Time stalled as their lips brushed, a tentative meeting that seemed to whisper promises of understanding. The kiss was delicate, brushing between fear of the unknown and the craving for connection. It carried the scent of wildflowers and the distant sound of laughter, blending into something intimate that felt achingly beautiful. Just as the clouds opened up, releasing a gentle rain that danced upon their skin, Quinlan pulled away slightly, daring to look into Fiora's eyes. The storm above mirrored the tumultuous whirlwind of emotions swirling between them. "We've endured so much," Fiora said, breathless as the rain fell, but together, maybe we can face anything? As the others erupted in playful banter, Quinlan nodded, a slow smile creeping onto his face, ready to tackle whatever lay ahead. He realized, in that moment, that even at the heart of chaos, there could be serenity. Scene 87. Values reinforced. The flickering candlelight danced across the faces of the small group huddled around the hearth, its warmth a stark contrast to the encroaching chill of the night. Shadows stretched along the wooden walls, whispering forgotten secrets. Each crackle of the fire echoed Quinlan's racing thoughts as he gazed into the flame, the soft scent of burnt cedar teasing his senses. The night weighed heavily with unspoken worries and a palpable tension that felt as thick as the mist outside. Quinlan shifted on his seat, the old log creaking under his weight. He could feel the watching eyes of his friends, their presence a comforting balm even as unsaid fears vibrated in the air. Fiora sat closest to him, her lively spark diminished, revealing traces of worry etched in her brow. It hurt him to see her that way. His heart clenched, nearly palpable, just as he turned to her, his voice soft yet laced with something deeper. "Do you remember that story about the lighthouse keeper? The one who vanished without a trace?" Fiora looked up, drawing herself into the conversation. "Yeah, they said he still roams the cliffs, searching for something." Her blue eyes sparkled with a mixture of intrigue and fright. It's eerie to think about how someone can just be gone. She hesitated, then added, "I wonder what it's like to just disappear." The subtle tremor in her voice shook Quinlan. It wasn't just fear for the ghostly wanderer. This was something heavier, more profound. He leaned slightly closer, the warmth of her presence becoming a comforting anchor amidst their current chaos. "I think everyone's afraid of being forgotten," he replied, his tone low, making sure only she could hear. "That's what the stories remind us, that life is fragile, always on the verge." He studied her, allowing the silence to linger until she nodded, her eyes mirroring shadows of vulnerability. From behind them, Olivia piped up with a characteristic burst of laughter, filling the room with levity. "Well, I'd rather laugh at the lame ghosts than disappear myself. What's the point of haunting a place you used to love if no one remembers you anyway?" "Olivia, are you telling me the ghost had a midlife crisis?" joked Lucas, breaking into a grin. "Definitely," Olivia shot back, her bright smile lighting up the dim room. He was probably just a reluctant retiree who clung to his old job longer than he should have. The laughter that ensued was infectious, yet fleeting, a bubble of warmth that fizzled as quickly as it appeared. Fiora pursed her lips, reflecting as she chuckled with the others, her laughter laced with an underlying concern. Quinlan caught her eye again, and they shared a moment, a silent acknowledgement of their weaknesses and worries that threaded them together, much like the characters in their ghost tales. Amidst their laughter, a heaviness descended upon Raphael, who had been quiet, leaning against the wall, lost in thought. His rugged features softened as he spoke, his voice low and deliberate. "But if we're just shadows waiting for someone to remember us, what's the purpose?" He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration etching his features. "Is living just about not being forgotten?" "Maybe not," Fiora interjected softly. "Maybe it's about the connections we create while we're here." Her gaze shifted, taking in each person's face. "Like this moment, here, together." "Warm and fuzzy," Lucas teased, nudging her side, but the tension in Raphael's stance didn't dissipate. "No, seriously," Raphael pressed, shaking his head. "What if we don't make it through? Who remembers us then? Stories don't change what's real." "Then let's make our own story," Quinlan said, his voice firm. "What we have is alive right now, and I plan to fight for it." His resolve welled up, flooding him with intensity. "We're more than just characters in a ghost story. We're friends. We can't fall apart." An electric moment hung between him and Fiora, her breathing matching his, filled with a charged understanding. She reached for his hand, and for an instant, they were lost in that shared connection, forgetting fears, forgetting everything but the fluttering warmth coursing through them. But before they could delve deeper, a distant howl echoed from outside, sending icy fingers trailing down their spines. The laughter shattered, replaced by a sharp silence, everyone looking towards the door as if it held the answers to their unasked questions. "We need to stick together." Fiora broke the silence, her voice steady despite the tremor hinted there. regardless of the dark things out there. Quinlan nodded, squeezing her hand slightly before releasing it, a promise sealed in their shared resolve. He could feel the unifying weight of that moment, a tether that would pull them through the darkness to come. "Next ghost stories on me," he replied, attempting to lighten the mood, his lips twitching into a smirk. "I'll make sure it's a real bone chiller." They all chuckled, already lifting from the shadows as laughter seeped back into their souls. But as Quinlan glanced out into the dark abyss waiting beyond the cabin walls, a chill washed over him, one they might not escape at all. Scene 88, a day to remember. The sun submerged into the horizon, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the sky, as Quinlan and Fiora arranged a patch of candles on the old wooden table outside. Each flickering flame danced in the gentle evening breeze, echoing the fragile nature of remembrance. The air was tinged with the scent of cinnamon and roasted coffee, wafting in from the kitchen where others had gathered to prepare the final touches. "Do you think they'd approve of this?" Quinlan asked, his voice steady but layered with an unshakable tension. He placed a white candle delicately in the center, its wax a stark contrast to the deep emerald tablecloth. "I mean, they should definitely know, but do we need to make it so formal?" Fiora shrugged, a warm smile lighting up her features. "Maybe it's not about approval. It's about what we feel, right? We've got to make this special for us." Her fingers trailed over the vibrant colors of dried flowers, arranging them with an artist's care, each bloom symbolizing a story, a laugh, a tear shared. Their group had survived not only the chaotic shadows of their past, but the literal manifestation of those ghosts within the woods. As they prepared, the weight of their losses settled around them, thick like the humid air promising rain. Meanwhile, in the cozy but chaotic kitchen, Lila attempted to fetch ingredients, mixing flour and sugar while balancing a half-closed cookbook with one hand. "If I don't manage to find those mini marshmallows, do you think they'd come back to haunt me?" she quipped, her laughter infectious. Max, stirring a pot of something bubbling merrily on the stove, shot her an incredulous look. "Honestly, Lila, what are the odds of a sugar-sweet ghost? You can't mess up a recipe that badly," he teased, rolling his eyes as a dash of cinnamon misfired into the mix. "Now, keep stirring, because my ancestors taught me that good food keeps the spirits at bay." A burst of laughter erupted from the group, lifting the somber atmosphere. They were bound together not just by shared horrors, but by their unyielding spirit, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Quinlan glanced toward the kitchen and caught a glimmer of hope reflected in Fiora's eyes. It was then that he realized he would do anything to hold on to this warmth. "We should tell their stories tonight. You know what made them smile, what made them unique," he suggested carefully, trying to infuse the conversation with gravity yet buoyancy. Fiora paused, her fingers brushing against the delicate petals of a light blue flower. "I'd like that. It reminds me of last summer when we all shared our ghost stories around the fire. Remember how it ended in laughter?" "Yeah, but with a little kick of dread," Quinlan replied, a half smile forming. "Everyone was too scared to sleep. I bet half the town thought we were possessed." His laugh was light, half pretending to ignore the weight of the evening's purpose. As twilight descended and stars began to twinkle like forgotten wishes scattered across the dark canvas above, the rest of the group emerged, candles in hand, their faces painted with determination and a hint of anxiety. Each carried a small token, a picture, a note, an object of some sort that had once belonged to the spirits they had lost. All right, gather round," Max called out, his voice bathing everyone in a sense of camaraderie. "Let's not just celebrate who we lost, let's celebrate how they lived." The group encircled the table, their eyes bright with a cocktail of grief and love. Fiora glanced at Quinlan, her heartbeat quickening, then took a deep breath, her spirit resolute. "Quinlan, do you want to start?" As the first tale wove through the night air, each member took their turn, voices weaving together a tapestry of memories, laughter mingling with sorrow. Each story pulled them closer, sharing laughs about their quirks, even the phantoms that now lurked within. "I remember Jenna's questionable fashion sense," Lila exclaimed, igniting laughter all around. "I mean, who wears green on mustard?" Max chimed in, "Pretty sure her spirit still haunts the thrift stores." The light teasing grounded them, but an underlying note of sorrow hummed steadily. And as the candles flickered in the evening breeze, one flame suddenly extinguished, plunging part of their circle into darkness. What was that? Fiora's voice wavered, but she quickly regained her composure. The group glanced around, tense yet united in their purpose. Quinlan's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Let's remember why we're here together. In the mingling shadows, he could feel the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Deep down, he knew they were still at the mercy of something far beyond their control, and tonight would mark both the beginning of their fighting spirit and the creeping dread of what might come next. We'll keep our stories alive, he whispered, fingers brushing against Fiora's. Their connection flickered like the candles, but in this moment it felt steady, filled with promise, straddling the line of light and darkness. The truly haunting part was yet to come, but for tonight, they had each other. Scene 89. Resilience celebrated. The dying embers of the campfire crackled, their faint warmth barely standing against the chilled breaths of the autumn night. Shadows danced against the trees like ghosts escaping their captors, casting rippling shapes that seemed to bear witness to the stories weaving among the friends gathered here. Quinlan leaned back, tilting his head to the star-speckled sky, a universe full of possibilities, but tonight it was laced with something darker, the pulse of an ancient spirit lurking just beyond their sight. Fiora shifted on the log next to him, her vibrant aura a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere. She looked over at Quinlan, a hint of determination flickering in her bright blue eyes. You know, she said, breaking the comfortable silence. Every scar tells a story, like those old trees. They bend but don't break. Just like us, chuckled Finn, a tall, gangly fellow with a mop of unruly hair. He drummed his fingers against his knees, a habit he'd picked up during tense moments. I got my share of those scars too, thanks to my questionable decisions last summer. Which decision was that? Asked Jordan, slicking back his dark locks with a playful flick. The one where you tried to dive off the dock? Or was it the time you challenged a raccoon for your sandwich? Both were bad ideas for sure, Finn admitted, laughing. There was an ease in the group, a fleeting sense of normalcy in chilling circumstances. They shared smiles, reminiscing in the face of horror that threatened their very existence. Across the fire, Lena's fingers danced nervously around the edges of her flannel shirt. She had always been less daring than the others, more inclined to observe than participate. Tell us what really got you hurt, Finn, she prodded gently, her voice a soft echo. We know it's not just about sandwiches. He kicked a small rock into the darkness, looking down, his humor dimming momentarily. It was a stupid accident. I was climbing to get a better view of the water, lost my grip and fell. They thought it was just a brace on my ankle, but... His voice trailed off. A silence heavy with unshared burdens filled the space, nudging at each of them. Fiora leaned closer. I lost my mom once. There was nothing we could have done to save her. Just like that. Her eyes glistened as she reflected on the past. We're all fighting our own battles, aren't we? And yet here we are, Quinlan said, his tone steady as he gestured to their united front. Together, stronger for it. The winds shifted, snatching at the warmth of their stories and spiraling them into the night. A gust rustled the leaves, and an unconnected shiver raced through them, their laughter shimmering thinly atop fears that ignited beneath. But what if resilience isn't enough? Offered Jordan, his voice breaking the moment like a fragile thread. Then we adapt. Quinlan's fervor echoed faintly in the air, stirring the group from their reflections. We decide what we're fighting for, what we want to survive for. You mean like having scar picnics? Lena quipped, her eyes darting at each face to include everyone. Because those have some serious bonding potential. Absolutely, added Finn with mock enthusiasm. Nothing says friendship like reminiscing over your biggest hospital visits and X-ray adventures. They erupted into laughter. For a heartbeat, the darkness lifted, and the shadows retreated for just a moment longer. Quinlan glanced at Fiora, her laughter pure and infectious, each giggle a light pulse against the weight of their troubles. She caught his eye, her smile softening amidst the jest. What doesn't kill us, right? She mused, her voice dropping an octave as she shifted closer, her breath warm against the night air. It sure gives us stories to tell, he replied, a sudden seriousness coaxing his humor back. The encroaching terror that lurked outside their laughter surfaced between them. He knew they were not just exchanging stories, they were fortifying against an unseen enemy. Fiora's fingers grazed his as she leaned closer, the moment tinged with something electric. A dare wrapped in the darkness. Was it just the firelight flickering or something deeper? The tension permeated their laughter, leaving behind unspoken words hanging in the air. We fight, we adapt, and we share our scars, Quinlan affirmed, the embers of hope igniting anew. We'll survive this. The laughter dwindled, but the warmth lingered. They were acutely aware of the sacrifices needed ahead, yet in this moment, they were shrouded in resilience together. Scene 90. The power of connection. The campfire crackled softly, its warm glow dancing against the darkened forest. Shadows of trees loomed larger, stretching toward the group of friends, each lost in their own thoughts. Quinlan leaned forward, subtly shifting the atmosphere, his voice low and playful. So if you could catch a ghost, what would you do with it? Name it? Train it as a spirit pet? Fiora giggled, her laugh a balm against the tension that had settled over them. I'd teach it to give me the best hairstyle in the morning. Imagine waking up with perfect hair every day. She tossed her hair over her shoulders, a grin spreading across her face. A little deeper in the circle, Lena rolled her eyes, pretending to be annoyed. Right, because ghosts have that kind of talent, Lena interjected, sarcasm woven through her tone. I just ask it for the winning lottery numbers. Who needs a spirit stylist? As laughter rippled through the group, Quinlan's gaze drifted to Fiora, a glow illuminating her features. The light flickered, highlighting the way her eyes sparkled, and he felt that familiar tug at his heart. You're just jealous, Fiora shot back, sticking her tongue out playfully at Lena. Just then, Eric, who had been unusually quiet, broke in. You know, I'd probably just ask it to haunt my ex's new boyfriend. A few chuckles erupted, the laughter hanging slightly in the air, a welcome distraction. Spite, Lena teased as she smirked at him. That's classic you. Hey, they deserve it. Eric raised a defensive hand, feigning indignation. But honestly, it might be the only way to get some peace. As the jovial banter continued, a palpable energy simmered beneath the surface of their laughter. Moments passed, and suddenly, the mood shifted, the laughter receding into whispers of uncertainty. The darkness around them seemed to close in. Do you think we're safe here? Quinlan's voice came out almost too serious, slicing through the lightness. It held an edge, a worry he did not mean to express, but one that was gnawing at the walls of his mind. Safe? Eric echoed, his tone suddenly sober. We're hunting ghosts. There's no safety in that. Fiora shifted, an unusual heat flashing across her cheeks. But we're together. We can handle it, right? She sought assurance, eyes darting from Quinlan to the others, her unconfident smile bringing silence. Yeah, together, Quinlan murmured, catching Fiora's gaze, their connection deepening beyond the flickering flames. In that moment, the laughter felt distant, and the night wrapped around them in a cocoon of warmth mixed with uncertainty. For a heartbeat, the silence stretched, heavy yet electric. The unspoken words lingered in the charged air, a whisper of something deeper between them. Fiora looked down, biting her lips slightly. You know, Quinlan started, voice barely above a whisper, I've always thought that things happen for a reason. Like ghosts? Fiora quipped, her attempt to lighten the mood barely masking her evident tension. No. Quinlan smiled, a glimmer still dancing in his eyes despite the shifting tone. He paused, gathering the weight of his thoughts. Like us being here. Like everything we've been through together. Lena, observing the moment unfold, exchanged glances with Eric, a knowing look passing between them. They may have been jesting, but they understood something had shifted. What's that look for? Eric asked, half serious. You two better not be getting all mushy on us. Quinlan smirked, a flicker of mischief returning. Mushy? Never. We were just talking ghosts, remember? Yet, Fiora's pulse quickened as Quinlan's gaze held her, an anchor in the chaos. She leaned forward, a tentative bravado rising, words tumbling forth. I think we have something special, but right now it feels like. Before she could finish, Quinlan edged closer, his intentions unreadable but palpable. He reached for her hand, fingers intertwining, grounding them both in that charged moment. The weight of everything they had faced pressed against them, stripping away the layers of jest. With a gentle pull, he leaned closer, energy crackling between them. "It feels like what we have matters," he whispered, softer now, just below the crackle of the fire, leaning in until their lips brushed, breath mixing in a tender embrace of warmth. The kiss came like a rush, a storm of sensation enveloping them, transporting them farther from the haunted woods around them. In the chaos, they found a moment of clarity, a recognition of the bond that silently tethered them, the darkness outside overshadowed by their shared light. As the kiss deepened, Fiora melted against him, thoughts fading into the quiet humidity of the night air until it was just them, lost in their connection. The world around them seemed to hold its breath, shadows dancing softly, covering their moment. And then, with their hearts racing, they broke apart, the weight of their shared secret hovering just above the surface, breathing through the night. Quinlan's voice broke the stillness once more, a laugh laced with breathless joy and nerves. "Okay, who's ready to face the angry ghost?" The laughter returned, a feeble battle cry against the shadows lurking in the woods, reminding them that while love offered shelter from the night, danger was never far away. Scene 91, Reflections on Fear. The flickering glow of a campfire danced erratically against the encroaching darkness of Briarwood Hollow, casting elongated shadows that stretched like fingers, reaching for the group of friends gathered nearby. The mossy ground, damp from evening dew, clung to their jeans, and the scent of burning wood hung in the crisp night air, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp leaves, stirring a longing for comfort amidst the fear they could no longer deny. Quinlan settled deeper into his worn jacket, its familiar threadbare fabric offering little warmth against the chill that nipped at his skin. Yet it was inside him where the real cold resided. "Who's next?" Fiora said, brushing back a stubborn strand of hair that had escaped its ponytail. Her voice was light, but the flicker of her bright green eyes betrayed the turmoil beneath. With an air of resolution, Dante, a tall, broad-shouldered man wearing a faded baseball cap, leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I'll go," he said, hesitant at first, but the somberness of the moment pushed him. "When I was a kid, I got lost in the woods during a family camping trip." A nervous chuckle escaped Melinda, typically the most playful of the group. "That's it? I thought we were sharing our deep, dark fears." Dante shot her a look that silenced her laughter. "It was really scary, all right. I thought the forest was going to swallow me whole. I can still hear the wind whispering my name, promising it would never let me leave." Silence fell like a heavy blanket, pressed deeper by the tension of their shared experiences. Each of them found pieces of themselves within Dante's story, echoes of their childhoods resonated, layered over with the horrors they had recently faced. Quinlan tossed a stick into the fire, watching as sparks flew into the air like tiny stars attempting to escape this night. "I can relate," he said softly, his voice almost drowned by the crackling flames. "I lost a friend once, on a ghost hunt." His words were heavy, steeped in guilt. Carelessness cost her life. Fiora shifted in her seat, her eyes reflecting the fire's glow as she regarded him, concern etching her features. "Quinlan, I didn't protect her." He stiffened, the familiar edges of his pain surfacing. "I can't forget that night, the way the darkness felt alive around us. If I hadn't been so eager to chase shadows." In that moment, something shifted. The fire crackled, igniting more than just wood. It ignited vulnerability among them. "Quinlan," Fiora said, her tone softening, "you've always protected us. You can't carry that guilt forever." Before Quinlan could reply, Sarah, a petite blonde with a fierce demeanor, scrunched her brow in thought. "You know what scares me?" she interjected, her voice gaining unexpected gravity. "It's not ghosts or darkness, it's losing each of you. Every time this thing comes for us, I'm terrified I won't be able to save you." The revelation hung in the air, bittersweet and profound. They had all felt it, the stark realization that survival was fickle, that bonds they forged could be severed in an instant. "Sarah, we're in this together," Melinda chimed in reassuringly. "What's stronger than fear? Friendship." Dante nodded. "And let's not forget humor, isn't that right, Fiora?" Fiora's face brightened, eager to lift the mood. "I can come up with ghost jokes, like why don't ghosts go out in the rain?" The group collectively shrugged, leaning in as she delighted in the setup. Because it dampens their spirits. Laughter broke through the encroaching darkness, lifting some of the heaviness that clung to their hearts. The warmth of companionship filled the air, enveloping them in a cocoon of resilience that neither the shadows nor the entity could penetrate, at least, not just yet. As the laughter dissipated, Quinlan whispered mostly to himself, "Yeah, but we need to figure out a way to handle it. No more pretending it's just a game." Fiora shifted closer to him, drawn by an unspoken understanding. "Together, right?" "Together," he confirmed, their eyes locking for a moment that curiously tangled hope with the weight of dread. The shadows flickered around them as if listening, waiting. Every heartbeat pulsed with unshakable intensity, an echo of what was at stake. As friendships blossomed into deeper connections, the line between love and fear blurred, drawing them closer to the brink of horror yet to come. Scene 92, Grit and Growth. The air hung heavy with moisture, the lingering scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Wisps of fog clung to the ground, rolling like spirits, desperate to escape their confines. Quinlan stood beside an ancient gnarled tree, its skeletal branches reaching out like bony fingers, just as shadows stretched menacingly across the clearing. His jaw was clenched tight, every muscle in his body poised for action. The haunted remnants of their last encounter still echoed in his mind, each memory a scar. Fiora stood a few paces away, facing him. The air was thick between them, pregnant with unsaid words and unresolved feelings. As she watched him, the crisp breeze tousled her hair, and she tucked a stray strand behind her ear, her gaze unwavering. "You know we can't keep hiding from it," she said, her voice softer than the whispering foliage. Quinlan's eyes narrowed, tension radiating from his frame. "I'm not hiding, Fiora. I'm protecting you." His voice was low, filled with an urgency that cut through the twilight. He didn't want her to see the fear gnawing at him. It had been years since he felt this desperate to keep someone safe. "Protecting me?" The mirth in her laugh was laced with incredulity. "Or are you just scared to face it? Scared to face us?" Before he could respond, laughter erupted from further down the makeshift campsite, where their friends had gathered around the flickering fire, the flames dancing like ghosts in the shadows. Tasha was animatedly recounting a ghost story, her hands flying through the air, while Ethan peppered the tale with witty interruptions, much to everyone's amusement. The camaraderie felt vibrant, yet Quinlan couldn't shake the dark cloud looming over them. As Fiora shifted closer, their shoulders brushed, igniting a spark that made Quinlan's breath hitch. His focus drawn back to her deep brown eyes, he took a hesitant step back, the urgency of the situation spiraling into something far more personal. "It's not about fear, Fiora. I can't lose anyone else." She inhaled sharply, her facade crumbling for just a moment. "And what if that means losing yourself in the process?" The laughter died down and Vivienne and Jack exchanged furtive glances. The moment enveloped them, mirroring the eerie silence of the night. Vivienne, adjusting her glasses, leaned into Jack's ear. "Should we intervene?" "Nah," Jack whispered back, a playful smirk curling on his lips. "Let the drama unfold. What are we, a soap opera?" Fiora's voice pierced through the tension, direct and unyielding. "I don't want to live in the shadows of your past, Quinlan. We both have ghosts to confront." He turned from her, frustration bubbling within. "You don't understand what it's like." "No, I don't," Fiora countered, her words steady. "But I want to. We're better together than apart." Just then, from the corner of the clearing, they heard a distinct snap of a twig, drawing all attention. The group fell silent, exchanging wary glances as the feeling of unease twisted sharply in the air. "What was that?" Tasha whispered, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "Probably a raccoon or something," Ethan suggested, trying to lighten the mood, but his eyes darted skeptically towards the darkness looming just beyond the firelight's circle. Quinlan returned his gaze to Fiora, the weight of their unspoken bond solidifying in the dim light. "We face this together," he declared, each word heavy with resolve, yet underscored by the lingering vulnerability. "But I won't let anything take you from me." She extended her hand toward him, their fingers just shy of connecting. "Then we figure this out, together." As he grasped her hand, warmth surged through him, making the shadows feel a fraction lighter. Laughter that turned serrated with fear echoed from the other group, suddenly feeling far away, like a distant memory of what life had been before they awakened the darkness. Okay, folks, Vivian chirped, optimism seeping back in. Back to the stories. But can we maybe choose ones without vengeful spirits? Amidst the laughter that returned, Quinlan's gaze lingered on Fiora, a silent promise shared in that fleeting moment. Whatever haunted them next, he would face it with her by his side. He just hoped it wouldn't cost them everything. I guess I'll have to come up with a way to defeat a ghost, Quinlan joked, a slight grin breaking through his tension. Fiora laughed, a lightness returning to the atmosphere. Let's save the ghost busting for later, shall we? The fire flickered and crackled, casting shadows that danced like spirits as they all leaned closer together. The past would always echo in the background, but the fight for their future had only just begun. Scene 93. Building foundations. The morning sun spilled through the window, casting prisms of light that danced across the wooden floor of the cozy studio. The vintage tools of their trade lay scattered like remnants of previous projects: chisels, planks, and a half-finished coffee table that tilted precariously on one side. Quinlan Vex stood at the workbench, head bent in concentration, a fine sheen of sweat glistening on his brow. Fiora Lise entered, a fresh pot of coffee in her hands, the aromatic steam curling temptingly upward. The room was filled with a blend of earthy wood and the sweet tang of brewing coffee. She hesitated at the doorway, watching him. His intense focus felt both familiar and foreign. "Quinn," she said lightly, breaking the spell. "Want some coffee?" He lifted his gaze, a half-smile spreading across his face. "If I can get a break from this lumberyard's finest." As she approached, Fiora's pulse quickened. This was more than just a collaboration on a project. This was their bond solidifying into something tangible. Yet a pang of doubt nagged at her, doubts that had kept her up at night. She set the coffee down, her fingers lingering on the cup, and turned toward him. "You know, if you'd just let me help, you wouldn't have to wield that hammer like it's an extension of your arm," she teased, raising an eyebrow playfully. Quinlan chuckled, but there was a shadow crossing his features. "And let you take the credit for building? Not a chance. This is my project." His voice danced between jest and defensiveness, the tight line of his jaw betraying an edge. "Your project," she echoed, her voice rising slightly. "Are you really going to act like I haven't been here every step of the way?" The atmosphere shifted, a weightiness hanging between them like a fraying wire ready to snap. He turned back to the workbench, grabbing the hammer like a lifeline. "It's not like you haven't made it clear you have your own dreams, Fiora. Why stay tied to mine?" The statement hung in the air, sharp and stinging. She felt a rush of frustration bubble beneath her skin. "So what, you're going to push me away because you think I'm too busy dreaming to help?" Quinlan met her gaze, their eyes locked in a silent battle of wills, hands tightening around wood and tools as if they were the only anchors in a turbulent sea. Then, breaking the silence, he added, "You know I care, but it feels like every time we try, we end up in an argument. Maybe we argue because we're not doing enough together to begin with." Fiora shot back, her heart pounding with emotion. "This isn't just about a table. It's about what we're building, or maybe what we're not." The energy between them crackled, igniting every unspoken fear. Quinlan stepped closer, the space between charged now with something deeper. "And what's that, Fiora? If you have something to say, just say it." She swallowed hard, weighing her words. "I want to build with you, not just furniture, but something real, something lasting. But every time I turn around, I feel you pushing me away." He clenched his jaw, the tension in his body seemingly palpable. "You think it's that easy for me? I'm scared." At that moment, the world outside faded away, leaving only the two of them and the weight of their shared history. Fiora stepped forward, bending slightly at the waist to meet his troubled gaze. "Scared of what? Of me? Of us?" Quinlan inhaled sharply, vulnerability shimmering in his eyes. "Of losing everything, Fiora. Losing this, losing you." Her heart softened, and Fiora reached out, placing her hand over his, fingers intertwining. "You won't lose me. Not if we face this together." The sun poured through the window, illuminating their joined hands like an ethereal spotlight. There, in that moment, they found a connection stronger than any argument, any past regret. It was a promise Jackie, their lost friend, had inspired, a rekindling of hope wrapped in laughter, unfinished projects, and the unshakable foundation of their friendship. Okay, let's build something we both can be proud of. Together, Quinlan said, a trace of a smile returning to his lips. Together, Fiora echoed, a thrill sparking between them, stronger than the tension that had just unraveled. As they leaned over the unfinished table, a quiet understanding settled in the air, the weight of unspoken fears easing into the soft light of day. Their hands continued to shape not just wood, but something far more precious, a future entwined with love, commitment, and all that lay in between. Outside, their friends stirred, each nursing their own dreams and fears, blissfully unaware that storms were brewing just beyond the horizon. Scene 94, Visiting Old Haunts. The night air hung heavy with an unsettling stillness as Quinlan, Fiora, and their friends stood at the edge of Briarwood Hollow, the very place where their ghostly fascination first ignited. Shadows danced among the trees, illuminated by the eerie glow of an unforgiving moon. "Do you really think this is going to work, Quinn?" Fiora asked, her voice a blend of doubt and hope. She fiddled with the silver charm around her neck, an heirloom gifted by her grandmother. Quinlan shrugged, his usual light-hearted demeanor wavering. "We have to try. It's not like we've got any other options." He glanced around at their friends, Sam, crouched to inspect a worn-out journal, and Marina, who held herself rigid, as if bracing against the lurking fear.